Good morning. I'm going to call this session of Board of Revision to order. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Treaty 1 territory, being the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. With me this morning, farthest to my left is Robert Buss. Next to me, Ray Massico. To my name is Harvey Diamond. The City of Winnipeg Assessment Department is represented by Mark Colatruglio, and our administrator is Katie Sutherland. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment rules in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision have been requested described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements made at this hearing must be sworn testimony, and all parties before speaking must be sworn in. Be advised that we do not accept comparative assessments, as we do not consider them evidence. Our board is appointed annually by council. We are independent of the city administration and the assessment department. We make our decisions on the basis of the evidence that we hear, and we issue written orders that we mail to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that our decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to an application for exemption from taxation, and the procedure and how to appeal will be included with our order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the matters to be addressed with each applicant following the applicant swearing in. We'll then have the assessor's testimony followed by any questions that they may have. After those questions, the applicant will provide his evidence, followed by any questions, and each party will be given an opportunity to summarize if they wish to do so. Once the evidence on application has been brought forward, the party may leave. This will repeat for every matter on the agenda today, and after all applications have been heard, our board will close the hearings, we'll deliberate in private, and we'll render decisions, which you will receive by registered mail as soon as possible. The information today is being recorded and will form part of a public record. This where the party's in? Thank you.
You started, so please say your name.
Mark Colatruglio.
You started that the evidence you're about to present is the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you. You start. Please say your name.
David Nishi Beckingham?
Do you swear that the evidence you're about to present is the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I so swear.
Good morning, Mr. Colatruglio. The first matter on the agenda is 1000 Taylor Avenue.
Thank you.
You proceed with that when you're ready, yes.
So we're dealing with file number 19-5158, the roll year 2020, the business assessment ID 51039, and the address 1000 Taylor Avenue. The business name is Walmart, and the owner is Walmart Canada Incorporated. Total annual rental value under appeal, $2,325,600. Total area of the premises, 146,911 square feet, for an overall ARV per square foot, including occupancy costs at $15.83. I do have a recommendation for this property. The recommendation is based on applying the rate that we used in the realty for this property. So the $12.75 here that you see is the rental rate that we did apply on the realty file. And then obviously adding in the occupancy costs to arrive at my recommended revised annual rental value at $2,233,020, and that's based on basically a reduction of the original rental rate that was applied. We did look to a variety of rental comparables for the Walmarts, and that served as not only our review on the business assessment files, but also on the realty in our talks with the representatives of the owners of these properties. We looked to other large format retail, and there is a range in regards to the rental rates that are being paid for some of these larger retail spaces. The Walmarts, when you're looking at the data overall, seem to be a bit lower than what some of the other big box companies, big box retailers pay in this type of space. So when we see some of the Walmart rates, we don't necessarily just use that. We do look to the market to kind of establish what the range should be. So in the rental comparables that I've provided, there is a range between $12 a square foot, and that's for 93,678 square feet, so smaller than the store that we're dealing with today, a bit older. This particular Walmart is the newest Walmart in the city of Winnipeg, brand new construction, and it's purpose-built for Walmart. So there was some consideration given to that in looking at the rental rate to apply. Most of the Walmarts were settled on the realty between $11 and $12. This one we've used $12.75, and the age is a big part of that. The newness of the building was a big part of that. So yeah, the recommendation is $2,233,020.
Thank you. Obviously, you're not jumping to accept that quickly, it looks like.
That is
So if you have any questions, you can ask them now.
Sure, so you've listed some comparables down here.
Correct.
750 St. James, that's not a 2011 lease, is it?
This may be a term as part of a longer lease. It depends on how it's reported to us by the owners.
Well, we've reported it at hearings here many times, have we not?
Yes, you have.
Yes, but you haven't reflected those reports, have you?
Correct, yeah. So this would have been as it's entered from the income and expense mailers in our system. If there was additional documents provided at the hearings, that may not be reflected in our system yet. So if the
2305 McPhillips, I guess that was a 1998 lease, but that's not, that's their step-up lease rate, right? That's not what was negotiated in 1998, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, so that's kind of there. So 1399 McPhillips. Now, if I understand this correctly, this is the old Zeller's store, the old mall that was demalled.
Correct.
So it was offered to lease for a number of time, and they basically had to gut everything and reposition the whole mall. Is that correct?
Yeah, so Northgate Mall used to be a mall that you could walk around like any other mall. It's no longer set up that way.
Okay.
And the Zeller space, which was incorporated into the overall layout of the mall, was kind of closed off as an individual unit, and that's what you're seeing there.
And the old Zeller's was much larger than the 65,000 square feet to begin with.
Yeah, I don't know the exact area, but it was larger. There was a bit of area loss with the demauling process.
And so that's a save on foods. So typically for grocery stores, you would see longer than a 2-year lease on those type of things, right?
Yeah, so I actually looked into this one, and again, part of the reason it's showing as 2 years here is because when we're reviewing the reference years mailer, so in this case, would be the full year's worth of data prior to the reference date, April 1st, 2018, we'd be looking at the 2017 mailer. This is how they report it to us. They show us 2 years. They show a lease start date, as you see there, and we show a 2-year term, basically at $14. I went and looked at the post-reference mailer, the 2018. They did renew at the $14, and I believe it was in place until 2022. So yeah, you're right in saying that there is potentially a much longer lease than what would be shown here. And again, we're relying on the information as reported to us in the mailers by the owners.
And then, guess the next one, so this is substantially smaller than the subject. You could probably almost fit 3 of the subject properties inside there, right?
Yeah, this one is smaller for sure.
And then 2860 from on a highway, that's the Sobeys?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And again, that's substantially smaller than the subject, correct?
It is, yeah. And that was included, again, this is a new building that was built as a Sobeys. We're dealing with a new Walmart. You don't see a lot of these large retail spaces coming online. So we looked at what was paid there, and it is on the higher end of the range for sure.
So Sobeys store would have substantially much greater interior finish than a Walmart would typically.
Yeah, they probably would have a different level of finish.
And the last one, 775 Panet Road there, that's the old Rona Lowe's, is that correct?
Correct.
So that was a sale leaseback?
I believe so, yeah.
Right, okay, so it wasn't an arm's length lease transaction, was it then, if it was a sale leaseback?
I guess as of the date that the lease was signed, I believe the Ronas and the Lowe's were still the owners. They've since sold the building and
Yeah.
they're still paying that lease rate.
Yeah.
So again, when we're looking at the mailers, this is what's reported to
Right,
us.
so so the difference between a market is a willing vendor and a willing purchaser.
Correct.
So this lease was negotiated between the same people, so not really a open market transaction then. So they may be contractually obligated to pay this, they sold it to someone, but the negotiated rate was not done in an open market transaction, was it?
I would say that's fair to say.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Mr. West, do you have any questions of the,
Yes, what is the 2257 McGilvery? What kind of property is that?
It's the same branding as the one on Panet Road.
Same branding,
So,
so a Rona store?
Yeah.
no, sorry, which one are you referring to?
2257 McGilvery Boulevard.
Oh,
the one you didn't cross the
Right.
seven on?
Yeah.
right.
I didn't, you were asking questions about them.
Right.
I missed
That
this
one.
one. That, and I have a question, you've included the lease on the,
Oh, yeah. There's a bunch of supporting documents in here.
but I see they used 128,596 square feet.
Yeah, so this is actually the Regent store, the first one you see. At the top, you'll see it says
Oh, okay,
1576
this is
Regent.
not for the subject property.
Yeah, so a lot of this stuff that's in the back here is supporting documents that were included on the realty stuff. Depending on how the presentation goes with the applicant, it may become more relevant in today's discussion.
Is there a lease for the subject property in here?
No, and so that was part of the problem with this property is we don't have, if you look, normally we would have on the front, subject lease information for this property. We don't have the full details. We're not certain if it's a land lease in place there. And it's quite common that we don't see, full lease documents for these types of developments. Now, in some of the realty hearings for the other Walmarts, we've gotten
That's
some
good, thank you.
excerpts. Yeah.
Thanks, thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
That's all my questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Metzger, do you have any questions?
No questions.
And I don't have any questions, so you can go ahead.
Thank you.
So this is the Walmart at 1000 Taylor Avenue. We did appeal the realty to the municipal board for the outcome of that hearing. But I just forward, we're referring to page 3. We're looking for a premise rent of $10 a square foot for a total of operating costs to a business assessment of $1,829,000. So one of the main things that's happened in the market, and I'll go through here, is that there has been a substantial change in the market over the years. And you'll see certainly with the older leases, around 2008 is when Target was coming into the market, and everyone was vying for space. And space became expensive, and people were starting to put a lot of money into the properties, trying to upgrade and get ready for Target. Since that time, Target has left, and we will see that the majority of those spaces were redeveloped or leased out at very low rates. And then subsequent to that, we've also got a situation where Sears has left the marketplace. So when two of your large format retailers or retailers that take up a large amount of space leave the market, we've got a diminishing demand. When you've got a diminishing demand, price goes down. Simple as that. We look at the assessor's comparables that they've used, all very old leases. The only newer ones they have are for grocery stores, for the Save On Foods or the Sobeys, and a grocery store roughly a third of the size of these Walmart stores. So you get an idea that there's a huge difference in the market and a huge difference in the finish and build out of those stores. So I will, excuse me, bring you to page 6, just showing the assessment history. It's gone up about 8.5%. Page 7 and 8, just photographs of the subject and where it fits. Up to page 14, we just did a provincial overview on the economy of Manitoba as a whole. Just showing that standard sort of increases in the economy, about 1.8%. There, looking at starting on page 15, all the way over to page 20, just talking about Winnipeg as a whole, and just seeing sort of a steady low rate of growth expected to go in the future. So we're not expecting to see a big increase or a big demand for properties and that sort of stuff. Starting on page 21, we'll look at what's happened in the retail world. The retail world is, they refer to it as the retail apocalypse. Basically, a large number of retail stores have closed down and shut down over this last time. If you look down on figure 1, you can see there's a list, this is from the United States, of all the retail stores closing. Going over to page 22, you can see that these are a list of the stores that are closing and downsizing in Canada. And who is left to take these spaces is the real question. And we can see in the list of figure 2, Canadian anchors are shrinking as well. Walmart is a substantial player in the market. Home Depot, the Western Group, that would be your real Canadian superstores and that sort of stuff there. Canadian Tire, Target is now left. And going down that list, Sears has now left. So we're getting a smaller and smaller number of potential people who can take these spaces. And again, when you've got a lesser demand with a fixed number of space, you're going to get lower price. Just looking at the Winnipeg market specifically, what's happened with the Sears closures, and go over and the Target backfill. So we're over on page 24. The figure 4 showing the status of the Sears locations. Currently all vacant except for the one on McPhillips, which was redemised, again, only taking 43,000 square feet, grocery store. Right, similar to what the assessor has for 2 of his other comparables, grocery stores. So much smaller space. So that was the 2311 McPhillips, Seafood City. The rest is still vacant. Now if we look over at figure 5 for the status of the Target locations, we can see that basically they've got rid of the space by redemising it, cutting it, redemising it, putting it in a call center. For the first one, I'll pull apart, putting in your call center, your winners, your home sense and winners there. And again, the winners in the winners in the home sense taking around 40,000 square feet. The next one at the Kildonan Place, again, total redevelopment of the mall, cutting out the space, switching it into a Marshall's, Home Sense, H&M, and a bunch of other CRU stores. So just getting rid of it entirely and trying to get new tenants in there, new CRU tenants and tenants that are much smaller than the subject property. We have the 35 Lakewood at Southdale Center. This was taken over by a Walmart, and Walmart did sign the lease there. And then there's 1080 Grant, which is Grant's parking center, shopping center, which was divided between a Canadian Tire and a Good Life Fitness. And the key here is that the Canadian Tire didn't even take up the entire space. So they did not take up the 116,000 square feet. We'll see in a little bit here that they took up a much smaller component of that space. And remember, we're comparing this to 146,000 square foot space. And in the market, we're not seeing the absorption of that kind of large space. Just a quick discussion on the vacancy rate, just showing that the vacancy rates have come up quite a bit. Again, showing that if vacancy is going up, your demand is going down, your price has to come down as well. So going over to page 30, looking at figure 1, I've gone through all the Canadian Tire and Walmart leases, and you can see what kind of rates we're looking at here. 1080 Grant, which is the one we talked about, which they've only took 86,356 square feet. And if you recall, the entire space was 116,000 was the original size of the space. So they didn't even take up the full space. And they signed a lease rate at $6.75. That was in June 2015. The 720 to 750 St. James, I will get you to go over to page 35. This is the rate that the assessor was referring to. We've had this in many of our briefs here showing how this lease came about. The assessor is using 1750, which was the step-up rate from 2011 to 2023. If you look at there, this was originally a 2000 lease that was signed for various rates. They had a $6 million inducement to get into there for a net rate of $10.60. In 2008, now again 2008, if we recall, talked about that earlier in the market, that's when Target was coming into the market and there was a lot of money being spent on stores and space was getting tighter. They re-signed this in 2008, and it wasn't even all the way through their lease. It was only 8 years into the term. So if you're renegotiating a lease when you're still have a current lease in place, there's no real incentive to have an open market lease negotiation. They then put this forward. They had from 2008 to 2011 at 1630, and then from 2011 to 2023 at 1750. And that's when they did an expansion, did a 9,000 square foot expansion on the space. And I get a net rent from there of $15.41. Excuse me. The next one that the assessor is using, now also remember this is back in 2008, for 2350 McPhillips. So the assessor has the 1998, the original lease was a 15-year lease deal. And in 2008, again, when the market was getting quite tight for space and everyone was getting ready for Target, they renegotiated that lease 10 years into their 15-year term. So they set it up early. And between 2008 and 2013, it was $11 a square foot, and they renegotiated the rate from 2013 to 2018 at $12 a square foot. They got $1 million inducement, expanded their space to 93,000 square feet, and I get a net rent amount of $10.43. As you can see in the assessor's brief, they're using the $12 a square foot, which is a step-up rate predetermined back in 2008 when they did a renegotiation of the lease. Now, just going back to page 30. The 1,000 Taylor Way, that is a land lease, so we don't have the actual lease document. There's no actual lease for the building there. That's a land lease. Walmart built the building, and paid for the building. They're just leasing the land for that one. For 35 Lakewood, this is the old Target space that Walmart did lease out in 2016 for $6.66. So you can see the two recent transactions of the large format stores, 1080 Grant, where again they didn't take up the entire space at 675, and again these are spaces that are much smaller than the subject at 146,000 square feet, versus these two which are less than 100,000 square feet. Then we have 1576 Regent, which is the other Walmart in 2000 at 660. We have the Walmart at 3655 Portage at the Unicity Mall location at $8.24. The 1576 Regent, they've added 20,000 square feet. The original lease was for $8 and change square foot, but they added the grocery component on there. But Walmart paid for the grocery component and didn't pay for any more lease rate. So when you take the current lease amount divided by their new square footage, you get a lower rate from there. They have then they have the one at St. Vital at 1225 St. Mary's Road. That was in 03 at $8.16. And then 1665 Keniston at $6.36. So we're showing the average and median rent of $8.58 and the median rent of just under $7 there. So we've got the ones where they actually lease out these large spaces, showing around the $8. These are older leases, and so we've had to make tried to make some time adjustments with that. And this is a slightly newer store, and we're asking for $10 a square foot for the lease rate for the Walmart.
You ready for questions?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Schultz, you can answer the questions you have.
I do have some questions, just in regards to the comparables that are used. I know there was some discussion about some of the comparables for the Canadian tires. The table here shows different rates than what we use, and it appears that the discrepancy in the rents is based on the removal of tenant inducements on a per square foot rate. Is that correct?
That's part of it. The other part of it is is the assessor is just taking the step-up rate as a current market rate. And that's the pre-negotiated step-up rate. If I negotiate something 10 years ago to step up pay you in the future, that's not a current market rate. That's what people's idea of what inflation would have been in 2008, which is quite a bit different than the case now. Think about trying to predict what something
Just
will be
answer the question.
10 years. Oh, I am answering the question, but
you're making an argument.
Well, I'm answering the question in that that's the main difference. The main difference
Just
is
answer the question. You'll have an opportunity to sum up if you wish to do so.
the main difference between the two is yes, we've taken tenant inducements and that the assessor has taken the non-market step-up rate, today's market.
But the calculation is that you've taken the step up and then reduced the tenant inducements on a per square foot.
I've taken the average rent,
Well, the average rent.
the average rent over the term, and then taken the step up.
Okay.
So that takes the
Yeah,
step up
no,
into
I
account.
understand.
Average rent over the term, and then subtracted out the tenant inducements.
Okay, now in regards to the age of some of these leases, you're right in that they are dated, and some of these will be up for renewal in the next few years, and they're in the last kind of leg of the lease agreements. But we've also seen in some of the comparables that you use 35 Lakewood, I mean, we spoke about this at the last hearing, but again, in this instance, this is also a step up, correct? Or a renewal of January of 16. The original lease dates back to 1965, correct?
Well, if we go to page 41, a brief. That's where they, that's the agreement between Target Walmart and the owner, Morgan Real Estate Investment Trust, agreeing to the lease terms that are there. On page 47, you can see that there's been numerous modifications and changes to the lease over the years. So at any point, if Morguard felt that they, you know, it was best to make more money by finding another tenant for that space, or for entering the risks of redeveloping the space, they certainly could have not agreed to these terms and renegotiated any of these terms. We see numerous terms renegotiated throughout the years. And indeed, we've seen, and the two examples the assessor uses in 720 St. James and 2305 McPhillips, that partway through the term, they renegotiated rates.
Right. Now,
So so this was the last one here for this one.
and this is the assumption of an existing lease, correct?
This is the consent to assign an assumption of the lease agreement, correct?
Correct.
And then we have the other example at 1080 Grant, where obviously they didn't take over that lease, because they didn't even take up the full space. I
Okay.
think they only took up less, you know, took up much less than what was the full space there.
Okay. Now, in regards to the other comparables, were any adjustments made beyond 720 St. James and 2305 McPhillips in regards to tenant inducements?
No.
No? So just those two?
Yeah, those are the other ones that have the tenant inducements.
And you are aware that there's case law in Manitoba that would suggest that we do not include that stuff for the purposes of calculating a net operating income for the property, correct?
Yes.
Now, you mentioned on, in regards to the Target's closing, I guess on page 25, all of the Target space has since been either redeveloped, reworked, and leased out in full, correct?
Target space has either been, yeah, redemised or leased out. Two leases at around the 660, 675, or a lot of money spent redeveloping it to different uses.
Okay. But they haven't had issues there of chronic vacancy. I mean, there was some vacancy there at the location there on St. James. But since then, they've kind of rectified that through being creative and devising the space and finding a way to attract tenants to that space, correct?
Sorry, which one are you referring to?
In general, just in regards to
So yeah, so
the targets.
if we look at here, the large space, we look at the market, the large space, there just isn't a market for that large space. The assessor's example on, get it here, on 1399 McPhillips, which was the old Zellers, which they basically got and had to put in a much smaller, at only 65,000 square foot store. The Portage, again, no large format retailer would want to take over that space, so yes, if they're still, we're trying to lease it out as large format space, there would be a vacancy, but they managed to got it, change the use for it. Same with Region. There was no demand for that space, so they got it and created an alternative use for it. So the other two, they did manage to lease out at much reduced rates.
And there's no percentage rents or anything like that that would apply to any of the Walmart leases
No.
that we're looking at in regards to comparables, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and I believe that was all my questions.
Thank you. Mr. Best, you have any questions?
Well, I hesitate to ask such an open-ended question, but you're talking on page 21, the apocalypse, retail apocalypse, etc., and how all the places are closing, but Walmart chose to build a new store. They didn't just go out and find one that's sitting vacant or anything. Why did they choose to build a new store?
Well, again,
You don't have to go through all the
no, I'm just trying to look up here, I don't have. What was the year that store was built? That was built
15, I think.
Yeah,
2015.
Yeah, 2015, right? So, they obviously felt that a couple of years before that, they would have done their analysis, before they actually started their build. You know, that's just sort of at the cusp of the apocalypse, starting, right? So it was one of the last stores they built. Certainly have been built, many stores across Canada since then. And they've, most of their new spaces have been taking over of existing space. So that's where the market has changed since then. They're able to get into existing space because there's less demand since then. So the market has changed over time, right?
Okay, that's good, thank you. That's all my questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Masko, do you have any questions?
I have one question regarding your conclusion on page 31. You say, well, all approaches to value are instructive. We propose the greatest way should be based upon the value derived through the income approach valuation. Did you do an income?
Sorry,
approach valuation?
I took this brief from the, forgot that sentence there. Well, yeah, we did an income, I took this brief from the realty tax side and modified it for the business tax.
So you didn't
on
do
there.
an income approach?
Well, I did a full income approach on the realty side, right? So this is just the determination of the market rent component using the income approach.
You don't show that to us, though. We
No,
don't see it.
no, I don't have the full income approach on here, sorry.
And most of these rents that you show for comparables are really old rents, old leases, right? They were in existence for over 10 years.
Right, the two newest ones are the Canadian Tire
Yep.
and the 35 Lakewood.
Right.
And that's the difficulty we're all having. I mean, the assessor has got two, a
Yeah.
third of the size grocery store rents. Other than that, they've got 10 or older year rents that they're dealing with.
Right. Okay, so that's all my questions.
So you talk about the apocalypse, and I see that, and certainly places are closing, but it seems that some landlords have used this as an opportunity. For example, let's look at the Northgate situation, where they had a Zeller store that was on a very, very old lease, went back to Clark's and Gamble's before them, or Gamble's and Clark's before them.
That's before my time.
It was a low rate for forever. They managed to now redevelop that property, and in fact, although they're not maybe having the full space, the mall's been revitalized because of it, and they've got a grocery store in there now that's paying, according to the city, $14 a square foot rent. Maybe that's all their stuff, but they're getting much more rent per square foot than they were getting before.
Yes.
So there are situations where this could actually be advantage today,
If
if they could redevelop properly.
Okay,
and
well,
then
so, yeah, so what you're not taking into account is what is the risks of redevelopment. If you're gonna redevelop that property.
We're talking business tax now, though.
No, I know,
Okay,
but so.
we're talking rental value, we're not talking
Okay.
about business.
Okay, so, but if the rental rate that they're getting, so if you're gonna look at just a grocery store lease rate, a grocery store, again, is a third of the size of the subject property.
And the rest of the properties, the rest of them, all those been developed, and they have outside restaurants
Yes.
and a lot of other things.
Yes, so what you're talking about is a different highest and best use. You're saying that the highest and best use of the redeveloped space is different than the subject property.
Have you been-
Subject property,
Have you been to that mall?
yes, I have.
So you see outside now, they have
Yes,
freestanding restaurants,
yes,
and the space is being utilized for different things, but you can't say it's not a better use than they had before. The redevelopment's a modern use, whereas the old lease covered property that had been there forever and was probably in a lot of ways past its best before date.
so I'm trying to get at the question The question is, are you trying to compare pad retail space to a 150,000 square foot Walmart store?
No, I'm actually
So-
looking at, no, you're using it, you're saying that all these old places are forming a glut of the market and bringing down rents.
Yes.
And I'm asking you to respond to a question where actually they're probably improved the investment and are getting higher rents.
Well, yes, but now we're dealing with different types of properties. So you're trying to compare a grocery store to a Walmart store. And again, grocery store is a third of the size of a Walmart store, right? So yes, for the small space in the market, at your 50,000, 60,000 square foot space, there's a different market than a 150,000 square foot space. What is the market for a 150,000 square foot space?
Okay, so there's a lease in place on this Walmart store, which we don't have information on.
It's a land lease, so it wouldn't have assisted us.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. You'll get a decision.
Just want to let everyone know that file 195153 has been withdrawn. So it's, the address is 1750 Plessy, unit 305. That one's
Okay.
been withdrawn.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so our next matter on the agenda is 1665 Keniston Street, Keniston Boulevard. Mr. Luchula, are you ready?
Correct, yeah, so we're looking at file number 19-5160, roll year 2020, the address 1665 Keniston Boulevard, the business assessment ID 29062, and again, we're dealing with a Walmart and the owners being Walmart Canada Incorporated. The total annual rental value under appeal, $2,160,900. The total area of the premises, 157,729 square feet for an overall annual rental value, including occupancy costs at $13.70 a square foot. In this instance, there is no recommendation. The rental rate that we're applying is the rental rate that we've applied on the realty side of things at $11.25, and then obviously adding in the occupancy costs for heat, electricity, water, and air conditioning based on the full area of the store to arrive at that annual rental value, $2,160,900. Now, as we spoke about briefly in the discussion of the last file, there is a lease in place for this particular Walmart. It's an older lease, and there has been a change to the area throughout the life of that lease that has impacted the rental rate that's reported to us. So when we're looking at the original lease rate based on the pre-expansion area of the store, we're looking at a rental rate of $8.57 a square foot. When you factor in the additional space and you don't change the annual rent, obviously the rent comes down, which is the $638 that you're seeing there. Again, with the Walmarts, and I'll try to keep it brief, a lot of the same points as the previous file apply on this one. Now, this isn't the newest Walmart in the city, but it certainly isn't the oldest either. And again, there's a range in regards to what these larger format retail seem to be able to generate. Now, again, the leases can be somewhat dated, but the $6.38 that we're looking at for the subject property based on the post-expansion area is very low when you're looking at other market comparables for this type of space, particularly the Canadian Tires. The McPhillips Canadian Tires, no adjustments for the tenant inducements or anything like that. $12 at McPhillips, $17.50 at St. James. So even in just those two stores, and those are larger, smaller than the Keniston Walmart that we're dealing with here, but not as small as the grocery stores that we've also included. So again, there seems to be a range, and there seems to be a variety of different leases that have been signed, whether it's through the smaller grocery stores, such as the Sobeys on Pembina, up at $19.22. The Save on Foods that we spoke about at Northgate Mall, taking on the old Zellers space in at $14. The $11.25 that we're applying is on the low side of the range that we see for the market, without just looking at the Walmarts, which some of them have very old leases in isolation. We do like to not just focus in on the contract rent, but look to the market to really see what kind of leases do we have out there. Unfortunately, we do have to rely on what's out there, and if they're old leases, we have to look at, you know, some older leases. But again, we're talking about a reference date of April 1st of 2018, and I don't think that, like was commented on the Zeller space at Northgate Mall, I don't think that the reworking of that mall was a detriment to that property at all. I think it was a positive thing, and I think that some of the rents you see reflect the positive impact. And though it's a lease that's signed in 2016, so it's not something that's 20, 30 years old. So again, when we're looking at the market for this type of property, the market isn't just what Walmarts have been able to pay throughout their various stores and their various interactions with different owners. We have to look at what some of the competitors are paying, and it goes as high as, like if you're trying to say big box retail, I mean, if you exclude the grocery stores, you're still looking at a high end of $17.50 for slightly smaller space than this Walmart on Kenniston. But you know, if you're accounting for some economies of scale there, we're talking about applying $11.25 for the Kenniston Walmart, and we're seeing a rental rate at $17.50 for the Canadian Tire on St. James. I don't know if you'd see that much of an adjustment for the discrepancy in area. So again, we look to the market, we look to see what information we have. Obviously, we rely on what's provided to us by the owners, and I don't think that the $11.25 is unreasonable for this property at all. Thank you, that's my presentation.
Thank you. Do you have any questions of the assessor? You can
Yeah,
ask them.
just with regards to 2257 McGilvery, that's the Lowe's, right?
Correct.
It used to be a Rona,
Yeah, correct.
and that was part of the sale leaseback, a group of ones?
Yeah, it was indicated that the leases were signed while Rona or Lowe's was the owner of those properties.
Yeah. So if I look at your analysis here, then basically the McGilvery and the Panet Road ones are not true market leases, correct?
Well, yeah.
They're lease agreements in place, but they weren't exposed to the open market negotiated between independent parties, right?
Correct, yeah, and we don't have the lease agreement to see what went into that, whether there was a distinction of a fair market value, regardless of it being an owner.
Well, they would
tenant
just
relationship.
have a number on a lease agreement. They wouldn't say, oh, it really should be this, but we're gonna sign a lease that says this. But in the definition of open market transaction, fair market rent, this does not, those two do not qualify, correct?
I would say it's fair to say that it's not the same circumstances as an open market transaction, for sure.
Great. And just as we went back over 750 St. James, it's really not a 2011 lease, correct?
Yeah, that's the step-up rate.
Yeah, so
we're
it's
showing
step-up
there,
rate, so the
17.50.
original lease was 2000, renegotiated 2008, 10 years, it's 10 years old.
Correct.
And then with McPhillips, the one that was the original start date, 1998. Okay. So no further questions.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Ms. Masco, do you have any questions? Assessor, do you, Ms.
No
Masco?
questions on this one, thank you.
I don't either, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So it's very similar brief to what we just talked about for the other Walmart store. I'll just take you to page 3. Looks like I have an error in the square footage. My calculations there, so let me just recalculate that. It should be 146, 911. Requesting the $10 rent. Which would be a premise rental value of $1,469,110. Adding in the premise expenses at $359,931 gives me a total of $1,829,000.
Pardon me, could you say that again?
So requesting a business assessment $1,829,000.
What was the change, David, to the area?
Oh, I'll make sure I remember. I think I just copied in the wrong,
The area here is the Thousand Taylor area.
in here, so it should be 140, if I'm correct, it should be, oh, no, wait, I'm looking at the wrong ones, never mind.
No, you got it
No,
right.
I did have it right, never mind. I'm looking at the wrong sheet, jeez, I'll get this right yet.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind what I just said.
I was gonna say,
Okay,
matched
wait a
our
minute.
area perfect.
Yeah, it's like, wait a minute, no, because I thought, I get them mixed up here, okay, there we go. Forget what I just said.
Okay, so what we see is what we get.
What you see is what you get. My mistake there. I had the wrong assessor sheets in front of me here. It's, yeah, 1665 Tennyson is the 157. That is correct. Okay. And basically, it's the same brief that we just discussed with regards to the 1000 Taylor. Yeah, the referring to, I guess I'll just bring it right to page with the comparables here, which is page 31. Showing the various leases. Again, when you compare the assessor's leases to the Walmart, to these leases here, we go through the two newest leases, again, are the Canadian Tire with 1080 Grant, where they didn't take up the full space. So they renegotiated the area and a bunch of other things to come up with the $6.75 a square foot, and then the 35 Walmart, 35 Lakewood for the Walmart at $6.66 there space. The other ones we've talked about, and again, we're requesting a $10 square foot rent for the Walmart spaces.
Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Colangelo?
I do have some questions. So the Walmart at Kenniston was appealed for realty, correct?
Yes.
Were you involved in any way in the discussions with settling that file for the realty?
For which one?
For the Kenniston Walmart here?
Kennison. Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, it was initially, we weren't happy, Walmart was not happy with the settlement offer, but the owner of the property accepted it, and as Walmart didn't have the right to appeal, they didn't have the
say in it.
Right,
So-
okay. So you're involved, but not necessarily in agreeing with
Yeah.
the rental rate that was applied for this
That is
particular? No further questions.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Massimo, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Mr. Bush, do you have any questions?
Yes, one question. You're asking $10 for this, which is the same as the previous Walmart that was newer. The assessor had made some differentiation in value for the age, but you're not doing that,
No,
you're saying it's the same.
Yeah, they're all relatively the same. This one was a little bit older, but they also did a major renovation when they did their retrofit and added their grocery store component to it.
Okay.
Walmart typically has, every 10 years, they do a refresh of the building, so until they get to the end of their 20-year life, if the 20 years since their last refresh, I guess, is that they look at a major change, whether they're going to continue there, have to spend the money to bring it back up to code or to whatever, yeah.
Okay, thank you, that's all my questions.
I don't have any questions, so thank you.
Okay, so just summation then?
If you need one, go ahead.
Yeah, so we've got over here. So basically, what we're looking at is for these Walmart spaces, these are 150,000 give or take square feet of spaces. What is the market for 150,000 square foot space? We look at the assessor's comparables. The last two are there's a mix of grocery stores, which are basically a third of the Walmart space. Different type of use, different type of retail tenant and finish. And then we've got two of the old Lowe's Ronas, which were part of the sale leaseback. Again, not arm's length market transactions. Again, 10 years or more older. And then we've got the two up front of Canadian Tires, which were basically renegotiated around 2008 when there was a big rush on the market to get space and upgrade and get ready for the Target moving in. We'll go back to look at the ones that we presented on the page 31 of this brief. We can see that basically two of the newer leases, which the assessor hasn't included, the Canadian Tire at Grant and the Walmart at Lakewood, and then a review of all the leases that are available there, showing that these type of large format tenants don't pay that much in rent. We had a discussion about revitalizing a mall and then getting a higher rent, and agreed that if they wanted to re-change the mall or redo the mall, that there's some risk in doing that. They may get higher rents, but that is a different use. The use here is one business, one large business of 150,000 square feet, not 5 businesses or 3 businesses that make up 150,000 square feet, which have a different place in the market. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to respond to that, Mr. Trujillo?
Just in summation, that we look to the market and not just the Walmart rents across the city in isolation. We do have some indicators that the Canadian Tires are willing to pay a higher rate, up to $17.50 if you're looking at the St. James location, and that the $11.25 that's applied for this Gunnison Walmart, when you're looking at that, doesn't seem unreasonable at all.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go on now with item 3 on the docket, which is 2127 Pembina Highway. When you're ready, Mr. Trujillo, you can proceed.
Sure. File number 19-5164, roll year 2020. The address is 2127 Pembina Highway. The business assessment ID 1163, and the business name Winners, the owner Winners Merchants International LP. The total annual rental value under appeal $457,680. The total area of the premises 34,595 square feet, and the overall annual rental value per square foot, including occupancy costs, $13.23. You'll see that we arrived at that by applying a base rental rate of $10.78. to the total area of the premise there, and then adding in the occupancy costs for heat, electricity, water, and air conditioning to arrive at the annual rental value under appeal. We do show a subject lease in place. It's reported to us here, January 2016 lease, 6-year term, 6-year 1-month term at $8 a square foot. Again, we try not to focus on the contract rent. We do look to the market. Does this contract rent fall within a range? Does it seem low for the range of what we're seeing in the market of similar types of space? So in this instance, I tried to find retail space somewhere between 20 and 40,000 square feet, comparable to what we're looking at for the winners on Pembina. And there is a range in regards, quite a large range in regards to the rates, as low as $9.77, I guess as low as $8 if you include the contract rent for this property. But there is a range upwards of $19.50. That's St. James location. They've since vacated there, but that was what they were paying, the $19.50. We look at Kenaston, the 1731 Kenaston, 2013 lease, 10-year term, 35,000 square feet at $18.50. That lease is still in place. 1729 Pembina, 31,000 square feet, 977. 677 Stafford. This is a 2017, so even newer than the subject lease. 20,000 square feet, so slightly smaller, $11 a square foot. And we have 1580 Regent. They've also since moved out of the space, but the rent in place there is $15.65, and that's 40,000 square feet. So there is quite a range. The 1078 that the model's producing is on the lower end of that range. If you're looking at the sample that I've provided, obviously the $8 is kind of below the range that we're seeing, but that's not to say that we shouldn't have a look at it. Absolutely have a look at it, but also absolutely have a look at what other similar space in the market is able to generate in regards to rental rates and the 1078 when you're considering rental rates of $18.50 or $15.65 or it doesn't seem too unreasonable to use that. So that's kind of our position. The model doesn't seem unreasonable at all. In applying the 1078, that's my presentation for this property.
Thank you. Any questions?
So just to confirm, 947 St. James is no longer there?
Yeah, I believe that tenant has moved out of that space.
And for 1580 Regent, that tenant has moved out?
Correct, yeah, so we received bid number 1, that's indicated to me that we vacated the tenant.
Great, thank you.
That's it for the, Mr. Buss, any questions of the assessor?
Yes, for the record, the address, you're 2127 Pembina Highway. Are you saying 2065 Pembina Highway is the same?
Yeah, so, and this comes
Same
up
property?
it comes up quite a bit on some of these business assessment hearings. Each of the individual premises can have a street address associated with them. The roll number will also have a primary address associated with them. So what happens sometimes is it'll pull the primary address of the roll number, and then it'll show you the civic address of the premise. So
So
there,
it's the
yes,
same
it should be
property.
the same property, yeah.
Okay, and you're saying there's an $8 square foot lease in place on that property, but it seems low. Okay, thank you, that's all my questions.
Mr. Mansell, do you have any questions?
Yeah, regarding the lease, it's a third-party lease, like it's not, it's.
The lease in place here?
Yeah,
Yeah, this is what was reported to us, so I don't think,
and it's not, like, it's not owner occupied, it's somebody else. That's a real lease.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm alluding to that question as well.
Yeah,
So
sure.
there is a lease on it for $8. It was negotiated between the occupant now who is making the application here today,
Correct.
and I'm sure a landlord who was looking to get as much money as he could from the space that he had to rent.
Correct.
And so that the actual lease in place shows what the market was prepared to pay for this at least the time it was negotiated. And unless we can show the times have improved since then, wouldn't that be the fairest comparison of what the property's fair rental value would be today?
I don't think that we would always rely on, I mean, it's a good question, for sure.
Yeah.
And definitely some weight needs to be put on it, for
Yeah.
sure. But I don't think that we should disregard what other owners are able to generate, right? If an owner signs a lease and someone down the road with very similar space signs a lease much higher, you have to kind of question, did the lower lease rate really capture the full potential of that space in the market?
Okay, and that's fair. I mean, there are situations where a landlord might sign for more than they should have, and there's comparisons that are a lot less.
Correct.
And they come before us and they say that in spite of the fact that lease in place, it's not a reasonable one.
Yeah.
The market would indicate something small, shorter than that. But still, I agree that you have to look at the situation, and there is a lease in place here that has to be persuasive at least.
Yeah, you have to look at it, absolutely.
Okay, well, go ahead. You're,
Oh, yes, I did take one, okay, there we go. It's good. Just keeping track of the paper here sometimes.
Thank you.
So this is the, if you just quickly look at page 2, can show where the subject is located, and then a front view shot of the winner's location. So on page 1, the assessment is currently using a rental rate of $10.78. We are requesting the $8 rent, which is the rent in place. I had February in 2017 to January of 2020 at $8 a square foot as their rent. The other comparables I could find in the area is the Yisks, which is just in the same complex, just a little farther down. That was a 2019 lease at $12.50, and just an asking rent at the St. James at 947 St. James, which is the old stable store, and suggesting that the $8 rent was a fair market rent at the time of February 17, and asking for the $8 rent.
okay, thank you. Coach, you got any questions?
Yeah, I do have some questions. So the average of the comparables provided is 1083, correct?
Yes.
And the estimated rent at $13,
Oh,
where
sorry,
did that come
that's
from?
leftover calculation
Oh,
error, sorry.
And the post-reference lease at 2065 coming up for the Yisk, that's $12.50,
Yes.
correct? And that's a step up, or that's a new lease?
That is I believe that's their step up.
Okay. And do you know what the rate is as of the reference date?
No, I don't, I'm trying to think if I've got that one here. No, I don't.
Okay. Is it possible,
I think it's the same.
Okay,
I think they
so-
just continued on, yeah.
okay, so $12.50 within the same complex for a little bit smaller of a space,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah, smaller space, different finish on the outside. I think, is that one coming up today? I know I did something on that one. 2065. No. Yeah, because I was just gonna show, I've got the front look of it. It's for the Yisk space. It's a much nicer finish on the front than Winners is pretty basic.
Okay.
It's pretty basic as you go, so, yeah.
I have no further questions.
Thank you. Mr. West, do you have any questions?
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. West, do you have any questions?
No questions.
So you're using the lease in place, which I think is
It's a relatively new lease signed.
yeah. But was there advantages to the landlord because you were saying there were spaces at the time that, according to your previous documentation, that we were renting in an Acropolis? Did that have any influence on the landlord maybe signing a lease for less than he could negotiate if he would?
Well, again, this is 40,000 square feet, which is a lot different than.
No, I understand.
A lot different than 150,000 square feet.
It should be easier to rent out because it
Yeah,
is a
yeah,
lot,
yeah, it should be easier to rent
Yeah.
out, there's a lot more competition in the market for that size space as we've seen.
on it, so I don't think there was any undue.
Okay, so I'm looking at the city's comparables, and they have one at 1729 Pembina Highway. It's almost the same amount of space, it's not that far away, it's on the same proper street, and it comes out to 977 a foot. And do you know that property?
No, I don't know which that one is.
It's a thrift store, if you guys.
I'm sorry?
The brand name is a thrift store.
Oh, is that the,
What's that?
It's a thrift store.
Oh, thrift store?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so just in summation, just looking at the assessor's comparables there, we see that the higher rental space, the tenants have left. So obviously, for whatever reason, they weren't able to make a go at.
Well, one
at those-
situation was the lease is
Yeah.
expired by now.
Yeah, on there, so, yeah, that was my only comment, was on that. The most recent space, on the assessor's thing, I guess showing $11 for about a 50% smaller space.
Okay, thank you.
I have no summation.
Do you have a hallucination?
No summation.
And,
That was it.
okay. So next item number 4, which is 3900 Grant Avenue, Unit 1B. Does it go through there?
So file number 19-5074, roll year 2020. The address is 1B 3900 Grant Avenue. The business assessment ID 33807. It's a Dollarama operating out of this location, and the owner's Dollarama LP for the business there. The total annual rental value under appeal, $205,140. Total area of the premises, 9,033 square feet, and the overall annual rental value per square foot, including the occupancy costs, at $22.71. We arrive at that by applying a model applied rate of $20.26 as the base rent, applied to the total premise area, and then adding in the occupancy costs to arrive at the annual rental value under appeal, $205,140. There is a subject lease that we show in place, net rent June 1st of 2015, 10-year lease. Reported rent there is $17 a square foot. Again, we look to the market to try to get a sense of what other space within the market is able to generate in regards to rental rates. So we have two within the same complex, 3900 Grant. Slightly smaller than the subject, one up at $23 a square foot, bit of an older lease. But then we have one November of 2015, that's for unit 10. Again, slightly smaller, but $21.95. So right within the same complex, they're able to generate a bit of a higher rent in regards to the space that's being offered there. Now, I did look at some additional addresses, 3645 Portage Avenue, Unit 2, that's another dollar store. That was signed in May of 2013, 10-year lease, 7,000 square feet, so again, slightly smaller, $20 a square foot. And a clothing retailer, 3665 Portage Avenue, Unit 200. It's a 2013 lease, 5 years, 9 months. Again, slightly smaller, but also at $20 a square foot. So the model being in at $20.26 a square foot, considering what we're seeing here in regards to the rental market comparables, it is on the lower side of that range, even considering the slight differences in the area. And again, the model doesn't seem to be producing a rent that's unreasonable. Thank you, that's my presentation for this property.
Thank you. Any questions, Ms. Nishibek?
So just on the first one there, on your first comparable, 3,900 grant.
Correct.
So that was June, July, August, November. So that was basically 5 months difference in the subject when they signed the lease rate.
Correct.
So, and that came at 21.95.
Correct.
Okay, no further questions.
Mr. Best, do you have any questions?
Is this, where is this? Is this at Keniston, Grant at Keniston?
No, I think it's past there. It's further down Grant.
Okay.
There's, I'm trying to think of what's in there. There's a Boston Pizza in there. There's a Burger King in there, I believe. It's kind of in the Charleswood area there.
Okay, would this store be somewhat of an anchor at 9,000 square feet, a Dollarama, do you think?
I don't know if I would go as far as to call it an anchor. I mean, we're looking at other units that are a couple thousand square feet smaller within the space. I think they're just, that's the offering there, you know. They're larger CRUs, a bit larger than what you'd see for some normal.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, that's all my questions.
Mr. Masco, do you have any questions?
Well, more so an observation than a question, which I find really strange, is that these two rents that were negotiated 5 months apart, they're quite a bit different.
Yeah, and that was what I looked at as well, and it's part of the reason that, you know, we don't just focus in on one rent. I think if they're able to generate almost a $5 difference in rents 5 months apart from each other, did they get their squeeze at the other premise at $17? It's why we look at, you know, the market instead of just one contract rent. So there you go.
Well, my question, if the applicant is correct when he was arguing in previous cases that we're driving at a retail apocalypse that's coming up,
Yeah.
and dollar stores seem to be type of stores that can weather these type of environments, is it possible that they maybe gave cheaper rent to the dollar store because it's an attraction to get people to the mall, which would aid other people in the mall? And maybe they have that type of an influence.
Yeah, I think it's a valid point to make for
I
sure.
think we should ask Mr. Nishi Beck and he's
Yeah, well, we have seen the dollar stores move into a bunch of retail space throughout the city.
yeah. Okay, well, we'll see. That's,
Sure.
just thought it was fair to,
Yeah.
because I'm gonna ask the same question. Okay, you can go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, will you go ahead?
Yeah, so I just get you to go to page 2. That'll just give us there's the Dollarama. In the plaza, it looks like there's a Shoppers Drug Mart on the left-hand side, the liquor store, Bank of Montreal there as well. And then there's the location at 3,900 Grant. Just going back to page 1, the subject site, this is a Dollarama at 9,033 square feet lease space, and that was the current lease in place was June 1st, 2015, at a rate of $17. The comparable leases that I have is the first one, looks like the original lease of that, there's a typo there, that should be 17. This is the subject, started in April 5 to 2025, so there was a step up, and the step up would have been the June 2015 at $17. I looked at a couple other Dollarama stores for similar space and size. 1650 Main, 9,100 square feet at $18, and then at 2727 Portage, 2015 lease rate 9,151 square feet at 1639. So we're asking for the $17 a square foot lease rate for a total value of $175,000. $175,690.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chukwu, any questions?
Yeah, just, I noticed that I'm showing $17 for the rent, and obviously the information that we draw from is the 2017 mailer. But you're showing $18 was, and then it stepped, the suggestion that there was a step up to
No,
$7.
sorry, the 18 was a typo, it should have been the
Oh,
17.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
No, there was a step up from 2005 to 2025, and so that would have been the $17 step up
Okay,
from the
yeah, yeah.
original.
Just wanted to clear that up, that was the only question I had.
Okay. Mr. Maskell, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Mr. West, do you have any questions?
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so you're asking $17. I'm looking at the comparables, and the one at 1650 Main Street, I happen to know that one is, that's not really a similar type of mall at all, is it? Do you know that one?
Yeah, no, it's not a similar mall, it's just similar Dollarama space and time.
And,
Yeah.
yeah, and so it's really an interior area of the city as well.
Yes.
Now, would you agree that mall owners would like to have a dollar store like a Dollarama in their mall because it would attract traffic into the mall, especially when we're going into a type of retail complex you were talking about earlier?
There's certainly a proliferation of dollar stores, as you'll see today. On there, mall owners would certainly like to have dollar stores. They certainly like, what mall owners need is they need a mix of stores in their mall to be a successful mall. So they'll get some at higher rents, some at lower rents, and in order to get a mix of what they need. The dollar stores tend to be less finish, less money spent on making it look good, and therefore they get lower rates than a lot of the other retail space where they're a lot nicer on the inside. They have to pay for those spaces, and for the nicer space, they'll end up paying a little bit more. I noticed, I'm not sure if that was, it looks like it was all developed at the same time, and I'm not sure if that was we're looking at the other one at the 2195, but it's at the liquor store. I'm not sure which one the assessor was referring to there, but just from the picture of the mall, I don't know, the liquor store would be obviously nicer finish, and a higher rate because of that.
Thank you. Mr. Chukwu, next item number 5, and that is 795 Lille Avenue. When you're ready.
File number 19-5147, the address 795 Lila Avenue, the business assessment ID 33149, and it's a Yisk Linen and Furniture. The total annual rental value under appeal, $299,520. Total area of the premises, 19,461 square feet. Overall annual rental value per square foot of $15.39, and that includes the occupancy costs. We arrive at that by using a base rental rate of $12.94 based on the full premise area. Again, this is a rental rate that's put in by the model. And then we add the occupancy costs on top of that to arrive at the annual rental value under appeal. We do show a subject lease in place. Looks fairly close to the reference date, February of 2018. Very short lease, 1 year, 11 months, at $8.60. Again, we try to look to the market to get a sense of what that rate looks like in relation to what other building owners with similar space are able to get in regards to rental income for their space. We're looking at a variety of different stores. I tried to find stuff between 10 to 30,000 square feet. The subject comes in just under 20,000 square feet. 1399 McPhillips, we have a October 2017 lease for 25,000 square feet, so slightly larger, $9.50. On Leela, 1915 Leela, Unit 4, we have a 2014 lease with a 5-year lease term, 10,000 square feet, so smaller, at $19.17. 843 Leela, Unit 1, again, we have a 2014 lease, 5-year term, 23,000 square feet, so closer to the subject, $10.50. 1050 Leela, Unit 2, we have a bit of an older lease, December of 2006, with a 15-year lease term, similar, very close in size in relation to the subject property at 18,399 square feet. That's in at $24.50 a square foot, so that's, you know, the high end of the range. And then we have right next door to there, 1050 Leela Unit 1, 2014 lease, 10 years, bit smaller, 13,000 square feet at $14. The modeled rate at $12.94 falls well within that range on the lower end of things. Again, I don't think it's unreasonable to use that for the purposes of calculating the annual rental value for business assessment. Thank you very much.
Mr. Nishi and Beckingham, you can ask any questions you have.
Yeah, just on the lease, do you have, because I got entirely different numbers and dates, so I'm just confirming what you've got for that lease rate. Is that what the reported amounts were?
Yeah, I don't have the mailer with me to confirm, but that's typically where this information would come from. So $8.60 is what was reported. And if you can provide some additional information, if it's incorrect, then
It's not helpful for me, but it's, but it is different information. No further questions.
Any questions, Ms. Smith?
Yes. Are you familiar with this property?
yeah, I actually worked at this JISC. It was my first job ever. When I was 15, I worked there, yeah.
Okay, well, my question is, are they still there?
Yeah.
Because the
The
lease
JISC
should
is
be
still
ending.
there, yeah.
It just, this lease that's in place here now would have ended just December 31st, I would think,
Of this year.
of 2019.
1 year, 11 months.
It's almost 2 years.
Yeah.
So I wonder if they're still there, did they?
Yeah, so we still haven't gone, well, I know that they're still there, like they're still in there. But I don't know what the renewal rate, if they've renewed or what the rate looks like.
Well, that's all my questions, thank you.
Mr. Maxwell, do you have any
No
questions?
questions.
I don't either. Okay.
Okay, so I have my brief there, just referring to page 2, so we can show where the discs is. So there's the discs and there's the vacant Best Buy. Best Buy there beside there, and at the time there. Yeah, if you look at the subject, I've got slightly different lease information than what the assessor has. I've got from February 1st, 2015 to February 1st, 2019 at $11.95. That's what I've got there. So we're requesting $11.95. Just got the winners in McPhillips at $12.63. It's referred to as CTC, but it's there. The Canadian Tire, much larger space at $11.50. And then there's the Dollarama in Vista Place at $11 for 12,000 square feet. subject, relative review space, new lease in February 2015 at 1195, and requesting the 1195 for a total rental value of 238.
Okay. Fine. School team, any questions?
I have no questions. I will have to investigate as to why we have a different
I'll
rent.
check that out too.
Yeah,
Check that
but,
out too.
yeah, I mean, sometimes we rely on the owner the owner to report that information.
Well,
No,
it looks
I don't
like,
have any.
it looks like there's not that much space between what you have now and what is being requested by the applicant.
Yeah,
Based on
like
the lease that's actually in place.
right, yeah, correct, correct.
Any questions?
No questions.
Mr. Maslow?
No questions.
And I don't either. Thank you.
Oh, just one thing I forgot to point out is the subject heading, I've got the wrong heading on there. But
The numbers
the
here-
the rest of everything else is correct there.
Well, I think we're looking at numbers.
But if you're going through your notes trying to find the Leela one, it's the one with the wrong heading. It does have, the rest of the information is correct.
Perfect, thanks very much. Okay. That takes us to 3421 Portage Avenue, unit number 12. Are you ready, Mr. Goldschmidt?
File number 19-5076. The address is Unit 12 of 3421 Portage Avenue. The business assessment ID 33911. And again, we're dealing with a Dollarama store. The total annual rental value under appeal, $190,800. Total area of the premises, 10,688 square feet, for an overall annual rental value per square foot, including the occupancy costs, at $17.85. We arrive at that by using a modeled rent of $15.40 for the full premise area, and then applying the occupancy costs for heat, electricity, water, and air conditioning, also for the full premise area, to arrive at the annual rental value, $190,800. I don't show a lease in place. We don't have the lease information for this particular property. So we did look to rental comparables. Now there's a lot of rental comparables within close proximity on Portage Avenue that we can look to, and some of them are fairly recent leases. So I'll start with 3340 Portage Avenue, 2016 lease, 5 years, 1 month, 6,500 square feet, so a bit smaller than the subject, with $20 a square foot. 3645 Portage Avenue, Unit 2, another dollar store, different branding, but a lease signed in May of 2013, 10-year lease, 7,000 square feet at $20 a square foot. 3665 Portage Avenue, Unit 200, it's a clothing retailer. There they have an August 2013 lease, under 6-year lease term, smaller than the subject property at 5,442 square feet, also $20 a square foot. 3647 Portage, another clothing retailer, older lease, 15 years, 3 months, closer in size to the subject property, and that's the 8,200 square feet at $18.75. And then we have the last comparable, 3,500 Portage Avenue, Unit 1, and this is a bit older, October of 2012, 10-year lease, a bit smaller than the subject property at $17.50. So all things considered, when looking at a variety of these different retail spaces and leases that are in place at the variety of spaces, even considering some economies of scale there, the 1540 doesn't seem unreasonable for the market rent for this property. Thank you, that's my presentation.
Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Ishibeki?
I guess you didn't pull the lease for like the thrift store, which is next door to the subject.
No, I guess
on
I
there,
did not,
Which is probably would be pretty comparable.
but I did not use that.
You did not use that, so you don't have any information on that one.
No, I don't have the mailer with me to check the rents.
No question.
Thank you. Ms. Mesto, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Mr. Butters, any questions?
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
And I don't have any questions either, thank you.
So just showing page 2, just to give you an idea of where it's located, and the strip of the mall, the Dollarama. It's a little plaza. It's kind of a weird plaza because this is the side street, even though I guess it runs on Portage there. It's up the side street to access it. And then to say there's this thrift store right beside the subject, which I didn't have the lease information for. Just going back to the page 1, the rental rate the assessor's using is $15.40. The subject site is a $13 rent in place. It's January 03 to 2023 at $13 a square foot. Just some of the other Dollaramas at St. Mary's Road, 12,000 square feet in 2017, $11 a square foot. The one on Jefferson at the Marketplace, 2012, showing $11 rent. And then one at Sargent in June of 2018 at $13 rent. Suggesting that the $13 a square foot rent is the appropriate rental rate for the subject, and requesting a business assessment of $165,129.
Thank you. Any questions, Mr.
I
Colafiglio?
have no questions.
Mr. Mesto, any
No
questions?
questions.
Mr. Buss, any questions?
The lease, Crestview Place at $13, what, do you know what business that is?
That's the subject, sorry.
That's the subject?
Yes.
At $13 signed in 03.
03.
That's all my questions, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. And I don't have any questions. Thank you. Okay, our next property is at 1399 Phillips Street, unit number 3. Mr. Colafiglio, when you're ready?
It's file number 19-5079. The address is Unit 3, 1399 McPhillips Street. The business assessment ID 36114. And again, we're dealing with the Dollarama store. Total annual rental value $306,060. Total area of the premises 13,413 square feet. And the overall annual rental value per square foot applied at $22.82 with the occupancy costs included. We get there by using a modeled base rent $20.37, and the total occupancy costs, or the total annual rental value with the occupancy costs, again, $306,060. Again, we seem to be missing the subject lease information. We did look to rent comparables. Again, there's a variety of different rents that we're able to see within the market, as low as $14 a square foot and as high as $24.50 a square foot. The location, the second comparable, 2305 McPhillips Street, Unit 103. That's also a Dollarama. I believe that's in the mall, and that's in at $23. This is at Northgate Mall. Again, it's been demalled, so it's not your typical mall setup with a common area that you'd walk through. But the model is coming in at $20.37, and when you're looking at the comparables there, I don't think it's too unreasonable. We have some on 1050 Leela, Unit 2, $24.50. That's a larger area than the subject. So again, I don't think that the model is performing anything unreasonable by applying the $20.37 rent. Thank you, that's my presentation.
Thank you. Mr. Nishibakian?
Just, you didn't have any other lease rates in the mall?
Yeah, I didn't pull from Northgate Mall, I'm not sure why they wouldn't have come up, but yeah, I didn't pull from Northgate Mall.
No further questions?
Mr. Mansell, any questions?
No questions.
Mr. Best, any questions?
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
So, I happen to know the area, and I know that there's a Dollar Tree right next door in, not adjacent mall.
Okay.
Do you know any lease information on that property to this comparison?
No, and I mean, that is a comparable tenant that we would
Or
look
kind of
at.
a comparable location?
Comparable location.
Yeah, so I thought it'd be a good lease to
Yeah,
have.
no, I
here.
didn't have a look at that one. Dollar
Okay.
Tree. Do you know the address there?
It's a little bit smaller, it's right next to it, in the same mall where the TD Bank is, and there's a,
Is it across on the other side? of
no,
McPhillips?
it's
Same
across,
side?
City of Phillips. It's
Okay.
just to the south.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I didn't have a look at that one.
It's north of Inkster and south of this mall.
Yeah.
Okay. Stacy Beckman?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, when you're ready.
Yes, so this is just the same formats, page 2, just showing the location, and trying to get a picture of the front, but it really couldn't off the Google there. It's the only area that showed where the Dollarama was in the mall. Just going back to page 1, the subject at Northgate Shopping Center is a May 06 lease to December 2027 at $15 a square foot. And then just pulling up other Dollarama leases, trying to find similar size and relatively recent leases. Showing the one at Kildonan Crossing for 12,000 square feet at $15 a square foot in 2015. The one at the Regent Park at $15 in 2012. Vista Place on St. Mary's Road at $11 for 12,600 square feet, and $595 Sergeant there in June 2018 at $13 a square foot. And then we're requesting a rent of $15 a square foot for a business assessment of $233,289.
Thank you. Ms. Kolchuk, any questions?
The photo on page 2, that's pre-renovation Northgate Mall, correct?
Yeah, that's what came off the Google, because I was doing it for my office there. I couldn't find a decent picture of it, yeah.
And do you know if the Dollarama is still in that location post renovation?
Well, it didn't really give, it's in the mall, so it's not, that's not really where it was, that's where the sign was for it, right? So that, it's not really the right location, so it's in a different spot, yes.
Okay, yeah, from my understanding in Northgate, I believe it's at the corner of where the Save-On meets the rest of the mall. So just to point that out. But I have no other questions. You're saying that the subject rent is $15?
That is correct.
And would that have changed at all
I
with
just,
the renovation of the
for
property?
Dollarama, I've just gotten the most recent rents that they're paying, so there's step ups, it's from I've got you'll see from the Dollaramas, I've got the opening date, the expiry date, they didn't give me what their step ups were, but this is what their current rents are, so,
Okay.
that may have been lower, may have been stepped up, since then. That's the information that I've gotten from Dollarama.
Okay, no further questions.
Thank you. Mr. Best, any questions?
Are the four comparables, are they all Dollarama?
Yes, those are all Dollaramas.
They're all relatively new releases,
Rel-
15.
Yeah, relatively new releases, tried to get a similar size. Dollarama's got quite a few stores in Winnipeg, so there's a selection to choose from.
And you said that you don't know if there's been a change to the $15 rate?
I just know what,
Subject.
this is what they're currently paying for all those spaces, so.
Right,
I don't-
for the comparables, but how about for the subject?
Yeah, for the subject, that's what they're currently paying. I don't know if that's a lower rate before and stepped up or how it's changed. They didn't have that information. The only thing they had was their opening date, their expiry dates, their current lease rates. They don't, they haven't got that organized on their system.
Thank you, that's all my questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I don't have any questions that have been asked, so thank you. I'm sorry, did you look up that? Okay. Okay, next matter is item number 8, 1585 Kinnison Boulevard, and that's Unit K6.
Alright, file number 19-5166. The address is Unit K6, 1585 Kennison Boulevard, Business Assessment ID 33203. It's a home sense store, and the owners is Winners Merchants International LP. Total annual rental value under appeal, $522,780. Total area of the premises, 25,997 square feet. And the overall annual rental value per square foot, including occupancy costs, at $20.11 a square foot. There is a recommendation for this property to reduce the annual rental value to $463,020 based on a reduction in the rental rates, carrying forward what was done in the realty for the business assessment. So it's basically just a flow through of the rental rate that was applied on the realty. So the recommendation, $463,020.
That's acceptable?
Yeah, that's acceptable, correct.
Okay, any questions, Mr. Buzz?
What does that work out to? Oh, this,
Yeah, I changed it on you, but it's, the new one is based on 1536, so I don't have the old one with me. But the new, the calculation there would be the 1536 plus your $2.45 for the occupancy costs to get the 463.20.
oh, okay.
I see it, yeah, okay.
Okay, very good, thank you, that's my questions.
Yeah. Mr. Buzz, any questions? I don't either, thank you. Okay, item number 10, 1592 Region Avenue West, and that's unit number 1. You ready?
Okay.
New business?
one? Did we miss one?
No, one was withdrawn, correct?
Oh, we're gone, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
92,
Oh, sorry, yeah, there was one on, let's see what's been withdrawn.
Okay.
So for 1592 Regent, we're dealing with file number 19-5090. The address is Unit 1, 1592 Regent Avenue West. The business assessment ID 6870. And the store is a Moores, and the owners, Moores the Suit People Incorporated. Total annual rental value under appeal, $175,620. Total area of the premises, 6,510 square feet. And $26.98 as the overall annual rental value per square foot, including the occupancy costs. The annual rental value is calculated based on a base rental rate of $24.53, and then adding the occupancy costs in to arrive at the $175,620 annual rental value under appeal. We do show a subject lease in place. It's an older lease, May of 2001, for just under 25-year lease term. Reported rent there, $24 a square foot. We did look to the market as well in regards to rental comparables. Some go as low as $21.50 and some as high as $31. The $31 that constitutes the high end of the range for comparables is another store of the same branding. So again, the $24.53, not far off from the actuals and well within the range that we see within the market. I think totally reasonable to use that for the purposes of calculating the annual rental value for business tax. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Shabeckingham, if you have any questions, you can ask them now.
You don't have any more recent leases in the subject plaza? I noticed the store next door has been vacant for a while. Any idea what the asking rent or they've tried to lease about what that is?
No, we wouldn't have looked at asking rents. Like typically we like to see once they've signed in on a lease what they start reporting the rents at. But no, it doesn't appear that the ones that I selected from that same complex are newer. They're older leases for sure.
Okay. Any other questions?
No further questions.
Mr. Basco, any questions?
Questions?
Mr. Best, any questions?
Yes. The second last comparable, 1570 Regent, do you know what kind of store or business that is?
It's a clothing store.
Clothing store?
Yeah.
And did you say that the last one is a similar brand or similar named building?
Yeah, so also a Moores.
Okay, and that's on Leela.
Correct.
The last two are the most recent leases.
Correct.
Thank you. That's all my questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, I have no questions. So you provide your evidence?
Yes.
Thank you.
So just on the subject, showing the page 2, the location, there's the Moores, and the vacant store next door there. I was just curious as to what kind of market rents they were able to get. Probably just looking at the assessors, that's probably the one that's moved out there, number 5, I think. But just going through my leases here, the subject, I've got, again, different information on what the assessor has on this. This has been around for a while, but the latest negotiation I've got is from May 2011 to May 2021, at the 6,500 square feet there at $19 a square foot. So I'm not sure where we're different there. That's the latest step. They've done they've moved the location over time, and done some changes to it, so. And then just looking at the other ones that I have, trying to find more recent leases for around the 6,000 square feet. The Kildonan Crossing, that was 12,000 square feet, much larger than the subject at 15. The plaza there at Regent, that's a winter store at 26,000 square feet at 1725. And then the last one is the Dollarama at 9,000 square feet at 13,000 square feet. They're kind of all over. So I'm just asking for the current lease rate at the $19 a square foot.
Thank you, Mr. Goloshuk. Any questions?
No, just the comment on the rent. I mean, we'll have to investigate
Yeah.
as to why there's such a drastic difference between $19 and
$24, yeah, there's quite a bit of difference there. I'm not sure what that is.
No questions.
Mr. Best, any questions?
Where do you get the rent that you have for $19? Is it over the phone or?
No, that one I got from their lease documents. I give them complete lease documents on here, but it went through all the lease documents. They've got, I wrote 5 or 6 different lease documents from the original lease and the stuff up and changes that they've made.
So you've seen the lease that says $19?
Yeah, that's correct. That's where I got that information. That was the latest.
Okay, and the properties, the comparables, the Kildonan Crossing, what kind of a store is that, do you know? 1560 Regent Avenue?
Yeah, I believe that's the Dollarama store. Yeah. Dollarama, Winners, and Dollarama.
Would you say that they're lesser quality finish than
Yes.
the Moore store?
Definitely. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. That's all my questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Messer, any questions?
No questions.
Okay, I don't have any questions, thank you. And our next property is 295 Portage Avenue. That's the last matter on the agenda today, so when you're ready, Mr. Gutierrez.
Thank you. It's file number 19-5077. The address is 295 Portage Avenue. The business assessment ID 38374. Again, we're dealing with the Dollarama store. Total annual rental value under appeal, 183,240 square feet, 183,240 is the annual rental value. Total area of the premises, 10,012 square feet, and the overall annual rental value per square foot at $18.30, and that includes the occupancy costs. So we arrived at that by applying a base annual rental value rate, a rental rate of $15.85 to the full area of the premise, and then obviously adding in the occupancy costs as well for the full area of the premise to arrive at the annual rental value under appeal. We do show a subject lease in place, November 2008, just under a 10-year lease term for $10 a square foot. And the rental comparables that I've used, the first one there is another Dollarama. That's in at $17. It's a bit older of a lease, but $17. Another dollar store at 823 McLeod. That's a 2014 lease, slightly smaller than the subject property. That's in at $14.90. We have a dollar store right across from the Dollarama there on Portage. It is a gross lease at 294 Portage, October of 2015. 20-year lease term, slightly smaller about half the size of the subject premise, but $23.75 gross there. When I had a look at the expenses for that building, it was somewhere around the $8.50 mark per square foot on expenses. So that kind of brings us into the range that we're seeing applied by the model for this space. We also looked at 166 Osborne Street. That's a newer lease, 5 years, January of 2018, similar size premise. They're in at $19.20. And then we have another dollar store at the bottom, 1656 Main Street, July 2015 lease, 10 years, $18 a square foot is the rent there. So again, the modeled rent that's being applied does not seem unreasonable when you're looking at the rental comparables for this type of space. And that is my presentation for this property. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Nisi Beckingham?
The one at 294 Portage,
Yeah,
we report that as a gross lease.
correct.
And there's office space above, is that what?
Yeah, correct.
So they're able to put those expenses over a large square footage area, right?
Correct. Yeah, so when we calculated the total expenses divided by the total leasable area, $8.10 is what I'm getting.
Thank you. No further questions.
Mr. Mansell, any questions?
No questions.
Mr. Mansell, any questions?
So this is on the same side of the street by the Mountain Equipment Co-op, is it? Right?
The subject property
Yeah.
is located right next door to the
Next
Mountain Equipment Co-op, yeah.
Do you know anything about the lease on the subject? Is that, would you consider that a good lease back from November '08 for $10?
It's a bit dated. I mean, some of the comparables I looked at are also dated, but in this case, most of them are newer. 2014, 2015, 2018 seem to be in a little higher, so maybe a little low for the reference date. That was kind of my perspective on it.
What about the location there on Portage Avenue? Is that a good location for a dollar store?
They benefit a lot from foot traffic there, and I think that's some of the distinction between some of these comparables and the subject property is that downtown, really, they do benefit from all the surrounding workplaces, the offices, and they benefit from all the foot traffic that's generated by the surrounding properties.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Just looking over to page 2, you can see the location of the subject property there. You can see it, yeah, it sits right beside the Mountain Equipment Co-op. That's the next door property there. So it's not the corner location, it's one in from the corner. For the subject lease rate, I've got on page 1, that's the separated out at the bottom of my lease comparables there. It's at 295 Portage Avenue. Opening date is February '09. So I guess the difference between the start date and the opening date, they probably had free rent until they got open, but they started the lease in November. It took a couple months to get the store up. And then their current lease rate that they're paying is $12, so it looks like it's a step up from the $10 that the assessor has here. So they're currently paying $12 for that. I did take a look at other, try to find more recent leases for other Dollaramas. These are all Dollarama leases here. At Crestview at $13, that was in '03. Start, Vista Place, December 2017, 12,000 square feet, 11, 1269 Jefferson at 2012 at $11, and Sergeant Avenue 1 in 2018, June of 2018, for $13, and we're requesting a $12 rent for the second site. For a total assessment, a business assessment of $144,673.
Questions, Mr. Colachuglio?
I have no questions.
Mr. Best, any questions?
Is this a good location for Dollar Store?
Yeah, it's a pretty good location. They're, on that side, it's the major bus stops right there, so there's quite a bit of traffic that comes through in and out for that. Similar to the, Dollar Tree. There's quite a few dollar stores in that little corner, because there's the Tiger Giant just up the stretch, Dollar Tree across the way, as well, so.
Okay, that's all my questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Mr. Westcott, any questions?
Do you know when the $10 to $12 per square foot rent came into effect?
I do not know that. As I say, from the Dollaramas, I've just gotten their opening dates, their expiry dates, and their current lease rates that they're paying. I am not sure when that step up occurred.
Okay, that's it, that's all my questions.
And I guess then you don't know if there's a further step up thereafter?
No, they didn't.
You don't have
They
information.
didn't give me that information.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Well, thank you both for your presentations, and we'll get them as soon as you usually do.